Earlier this year, Northwestern Mutual and Expium migrated a large and complex Jira instance from data center to cloud. Cloud migrations are more complex than anyone usually expects. The problem is, you're not just migrating Jira. Critical apps and user management work differently in cloud. Connections to external systems have to be tested and preserved, and there is a pervasive expectation across leadership that migrations be straightforward. Moving from on-prem to cloud is a lot like moving homes. It's tedious, it requires a lot of planning, you have to let everyone know you're moving, but once you're done, you're usually a lot happier with where you landed. So, if a migration to cloud is on your horizon, there's a lot to know, and you can never start too early. Our hope is to share with you lessons learned from our journey migrating a large enterprise instance to cloud and make your migration successful regardless of your environment's complexity. I'm Brian Darr, Migration Lead and Atlassian Certified Master at Expium. Expium is an Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner and Northwestern Mutual's Partner of Record. As their partner of record, we often work with Northwestern Mutual for Atlassian tool projects.
And I'm Michael Stewart, Senior Systems Engineer at Northwestern Mutual, and I'm the primary administrator for Jira, Confluence, and Jira Align. I've been working with Atlassian tools for about 10 years, and I've been in the industry for about 20 of those. We're going to talk about why we migrated from data center to cloud, the strategy we used, and what we did to make the migration successful. So let's talk about the benefits. Well, we have been wanting to go to cloud for quite a while, and once we saw the announcement that it could support 10,000 users, it wasn't really that hard to convince our leadership that it was time to make the move. Now, how much do we save? About 25% in cost savings. We estimate that we spend about 3/4 of an FTE cost on backend administration, plus we had costs to maintain our AWS infrastructure, as well as paying for Atlassian's premium support for on-premise products. We saved by moving to cloud, which handles the infrastructure and includes our required support level for the premium tier that we're on. Let's talk about support. Moving to cloud also alleviates the burden on IT to manage such a complex and widely used application. By allowing Atlassian to focus on performance and security, we can focus on our internal applications. And honestly, as a Jira admin, I'm sleeping like a baby now that I'm on call for one less application these days. All right, let's talk about support. Additionally, there are some features in cloud that directly add value to our business by increasing team collaboration and effectiveness. So in our instance right now, we do a lot of hard coding of business logic into our workflows because that satisfied certain reporting and business continuity needs. Now in cloud, with automation for Jira, which is native there, our project admins can have the freedom to add the automation as they require without needing a Jira admin to wait on to modify their workflows for them. Additionally, many of our business teams are kind of excited now to manage cross-team dependencies and have real-time reporting using the advanced roadmaps functionality, which is now in Premium Cloud, which is what we have. So I also am looking forward to removing my admin team as a bottleneck to users making improvements to their processes. In particular, we have a lot of service management projects that are constantly being customized, and being able to outsource the tailoring of those team managed projects to project admins who know their needs best will honestly be a big relief for everyone. So hopefully some of these cloud benefits resonate with you, and because they certainly resonate with us. So I'll pass this off to Brian to talk about how we approach the migration. Brian?
Thanks, Michael. Now I'd like to tell you about the approach we used, specifically first what we had to move, how we moved it, and the basic hurdles that you will also have to clear that are inherent with all complex cloud migrations. So to begin with, let's talk about what we moved. 6,000 Jira and Jira Service Management users and customers, 1.4 million issues, 1,270 projects, all from data center to cloud. Additionally, it's important to remember that many people including Northwestern Mutual, are not using Jira out of the box. Specifically, this instance of Jira is integrated with multiple business critical apps, including Script Runner, X-Ray, and Jira miscellaneous workflow extensions. On top of that, Northwestern Mutual's Jira is integrated with Confluence, Jira Align, Zendesk, GitLab, Slack, and a number of other critical applications. That's a big list of things to account for. So how do you move all that without, disconnecting the pieces and keeping them all coherent? Well, the first thing you need to do is choosing a migration strategy. There's 4 strategies you can choose from, and I'll go through all of them briefly. The first one is optimize and shift. This is where you clean up your data, usually by archiving old data, consolidating workflows, things like that, and then move it all to cloud in a single cutover, usually over a weekend. The next option is lift and shift, which is pretty much the same, except that this time you do all of the data in a single cutover without any cleanup. This is a little misleading as there's always some kind of data modification that you have to do when going to cloud, but you get the idea. The third option is a phased migration, where you move your data over in pieces over a period of time. The challenge here is that you usually end up with people swivel chairing across both systems during a protracted migration period. The last option is fresh start, which is just what it sounds like. And this can be useful for small instances or situations where it's okay to leave all of your data behind in an archived state, or if your Jira instance is just too messy to move and you want to start over in a greenfield capacity. For Northwestern Mutual, we chose optimize and shift. Depending on your situation, another option may be better for you. We chose this option because it is less complicated than a phased approach and therefore much easier on the end users. We also archived data older than 36 months, put that in offline storage and left it behind because moves are always easier when you bring less baggage. In addition to strategy, you'll also need to choose a migration method, and there are 3 of those. The first, JCMA, or Jira Cloud Migration Assistant, is Atlassian's migration application. Atlassian is currently investing considerable resources in this method, and it'll be the preferred method for many future migrations. XML is a data export and import that moves practically everything. It is much more manual than JCMA, but it can move a lot more than JCMA or CSV. And with that, it does require considerable data manipulation. The third option, CSV, will only import issue data, and that requires you to rebuild your project structures and users in the destination environment. For Northwestern Mutual, we went with XML because their instance has a lot of data and configuration that was very important to maintain when moving to cloud. So we have our strategy and we have our method. As we said before, apps are important, so let's not forget those. It might surprise you to know that apps greatly increase migration complexity. It would be a mistake to overlook them when planning your migration. A few apps could mean a few months of extra migration time. So why is that? Well, first of all, many apps don't work the same in cloud. So it's really important to confirm functionality before migration. You'll need to investigate parity between on-prem and cloud and talk that over with your users. In some cases, cloud apps are better, and in other cases, they're just different. Additionally, some apps need to be manually moved. Automated app migration is not yet supported by Atlassian, which means that many apps don't yet move with JCMA, but they are on the way. For apps that must be manually migrated, you'll often need to create custom migration scripting to bridge the gap between on-prem and cloud. Lastly, apps don't currently follow Atlassian's data residency settings. So therefore, it's important to investigate each cloud app's data residency policy and ensure that they're in line with your business's requirements. You can imagine getting halfway through a migration only to get a show-stopping call from your legal or InfoSec department. Nobody wants that. We didn't either. Speaking of getting unwanted phone calls, migrations are a risk to business continuity, so planning is very important. Therefore, in addition to having a solid migration plan, It's also vital to have a rollback plan so that if there are any problems, you can revert to a state that ensures that everybody continues as usual on Monday, no matter which environment you landed in over the weekend. Let's talk about testing. Another really important thing to account for when you're planning your cloud migration timeline is test migrations. The best way to prepare for any migration is to migrate many times in a sandbox. For this migration, and all migrations, to be honest, we methodically ran as many tests as necessary until we have reliable, flawless migrations. For example, when migrating an app, we would first try to migrate. Invariably, something fails. We then write some scripting or tweak some scripting and then try again. As you know, failing fast means learning fast. Then, based on what we learned from all of these testing cycles, we create precise step-by-step guides for the actual migration. This mitigates risk and prevents as many surprises as possible. Because in the end, cutover migrations all come down to one weekend. And if you do it right, you only do it once, hopefully. Speaking of doing it right, Michael, could you talk about what made this migration work?
I'd be glad to, Brian. Thank you. So let's talk about what made this migration successful. So if you work in an enterprise, you know that it's not getting done unless it's in the budget. And as I've said many times, well, it's a good thing I put that in the budget last year. I made sure to include this a year in advance and included the costs of working with a partner because, as you've seen, migrations are considerable work. Having someone else bear the load makes it possible, and bringing in migration expertise saves both time and money. So unless you have a team of people committed to your migration full time, I highly recommend you get a partner. And that's why we engaged Brian and his team at Expium. So we have a lot of people that we're bringing together to make this happen. And with more people comes the greater need for alignment. So how do we manage expectations? We achieved alignment through transparency and actively managing these expectations. We worked as a team, and big surprise to everybody, we used Atlassian tools to help us. Expium set up an instance of Jira and Confluence for us to manage the migration together. So let's talk about Confluence. We use that for our documentation, and all of our stakeholders had access. This served as a real-time project dashboard with convenient links to relevant details. And we documented the environment, our findings, our communications, and our runbooks. And we also needed to reset expectations with leadership a few times during this project. I mean, originally leadership hoped the migration could be accomplished in 2 months. Well, we used advanced roadmaps to convey necessary changes in the plan. Now, we started early, but you can never start early enough. Discovery and resolving the problems that arise with test migrations took 80% of the total migration time. Now, for managing day-to-day tasks, we coordinated and tracked with Jira. Now, this reduced the need for meetings, kept us on track, and provided us effortless reporting and transparency. So both Jira and Confluence helped us manage the internal and leadership communications. But without good end user communication, regardless of how smoothly you migrate, your users will be disrupted, confused, and possibly angry. And let's face it, nobody wants an angry user. So our product owners created a message for the migration with a plan that started 3 months before the cutover weekend and included multiple targeted announcements to affected users. We also created multiple avenues for people to get the information they needed and their questions answered. And those included an internal Slack channel, some lunch and learns, how-to instructional videos, and a resource space in Confluence for them to look at. And so that, my friends, is how we ensured as smooth a migration as we possibly could. Now, hopefully these lessons and this guide will serve you too. So, Brian, back to you.
Thanks, Michael. Before we go, we'd like to thank the many people who made this possible, because there were a lot of people involved in this. So first of all, thank you very much to Atlassian, who was constantly on call for production support and provided excellent communication within their tools for helping support this migration. And of course, a big thank you to everybody at Northwestern Mutual and Expium who worked on this project. And I say these thank yous to point out to the people watching this that you're going to have a big team that's going to help you with this. Specifically, a shout out to Northwestern Mutual's product owners who really put user satisfaction at the forefront of this migration. I think everybody wound up really happy with it. And of course, Michael, specifically, and Northwestern Mutual in general, you guys are a pleasure to work with. So thank you for a great engagement. And thank you, everybody, for watching. There you have it. 6 months of work in, I don't know, a 15-minute talk or so. Thank you for watching. We hope that you learned something about this and that the information in this presentation will help you with your migration. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Michael. We're happy to talk about this migration anytime. Thank you again. Thanks for watching and have a good day.